Okay, so 250 results. Here's what it did. It created the results in a different file. Why? So it wouldn't mess with our vars here. The only thing it did do with our vars here was reorder city, keyword, and service to put them over on this side because we want them there anyway. Like on the output files, we want to see the ID column and then city, keyword, service, and then everything else, right? So there you go. So it created output underscore whatever, 145,956. Where will that file be? In the same place as this file was. Okay. So let me just go ahead and close it. It's going to say, do you want to save the changes or not? It doesn't really matter. Okay. You can say yes or no. Now I'm going to go ahead and save them. So that city, keyword, and service are over here now. Okay. And here we go. This is that output file it generated, right? And of course, it should have mismatched the cities. So yeah, at the bottom we have South Bend here, mismatched with Atlanta, because we stuck Elkhart into this group, right? But anyway, everything got pulled down randomly unless there were brackets in the headers. Notice how there are no more brackets up here. That's because it's the output file. This is the one we're going to upload, right? To the bulk global variable. This is the one that we're choosing and uploading. This is exactly the page that creates all the variation pages, right? And so we don't want brackets in the header anymore because that has nothing to do with the actual upload. The brackets are only there temporarily to tell Excel how the columns should come down, if they should come down in order or come down randomly. Okay. All right, I think that's clear. So there's an ID column now that goes from 1 to 250, okay? And then there's our other information. Now, real quick, this probably gets you to realize right away, why do we have an ID column? So we can number off all of our instances. If later we want to go back and change something, we can. Say there's some reason we needed to change every case of Seattle to some other city nearby, like Tacoma. But we don't want to delete everything and start over necessarily, right? We don't want to lose the rest of the data. Well, if we were to go in here, we could do that replacement, right? Replace Seattle with Tacoma. And we would replace all. Okay, guess what just happened? Now, that could be phone numbers. That could be anything. That could just be one line item. But what's the point? Since the ID numbers are here, guess what? If I were to save this and then now I upload this one, it will know to overwrite the last results because it will be able to match on the ID column, which means if we took on one new client and this was that client, could we create a separate file like this where we only had that one line item? Yeah, as long as you have the header row, then you could just have that one row, okay, underneath it with that row number like 26. So when you upload it, it just simply overwrites row 26. Now, what if we were continuing? What if we wanted to create more variety and more pages? Then the next time when it gets done, you know this left off with 250. You do have a particular job to do right now, and we could probably create a macro to make this easier, right? Numbering columns. But now you would want to start at 251, right? For new variations and go on down. That'd be like 252. So let me force it. There. Now it'll understand my pattern. So if I highlight both of them and continue to drag down, it will recognize my pattern and continue my pattern. So now the reason I did that was intentionally to force it to treat this as new information. Now it's not very helpful to treat it as new information if the information will overwrite. If we have city-keyword.domain.com/service.html, then our 251 will overwrite our row 1, right? Would be the idea because it's duplicate, right? So that's a mistake, okay? So we'll need uniques, all right? So we wouldn't do it unless we were creating at least some kind of unique entries in here, okay? There you go. Now, let me just show you how big the scope of this can be because that's the other point to make. That was a small file with a small result. we can just as easily go with something that's really decked out. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a dummy file that belongs to a real project, but it's doctored. Okay, and here's the point. City, keyword, service, and yes, it has brackets on it now because we're about to run it. Now, many of these are intentionally meant to work with each other. That's why you see brackets on basically everything up here. But I mean, this covers everything. There are different CSS files for different styles, right? And different fonts, font colors and codes, okay? Lots and lots and lots of combinations. These are obviously meant to match, okay? They just are, like blue with blue, purple with purple. This with that is obviously a blue with a blue, isn't it now? So this is being done on purpose with different combinations, but nonetheless, they're forced to match going down. So we can create lots of variability, okay? This is a really big file, and it's got a lot of stuff in it. If I take this all the way down, what are my longest set of rows? This is all the way down to 2643. So if you subtract the column header, this is 2,642 rows of data that's in here where I could fill everything in around it, couldn't I? I may as well. So what would I create in this case? I would do it like this, 2,642 rows I want on this. And again, it's not going to screw up my original file here. It's going to make a separate file. That way I can always open this one back up and do new things with it, okay? Now I would recommend, there we go, output 15640, okay? So we could just take a look at that, okay? Let me close that one. Oh, it was open, yeah, of course, it closed in, it was open. It's pretty big, right? 922 kilobytes right now. Keep in mind, okay, that this is a much bigger project, right, with a lot more happening in it, okay? Most projects are never this big. They don't need to be this big. They don't have this many variables. Why am I showing you this at all? So you understand that, yes, this is possible. For those of you that didn't grow up in the MOWG era, like, you know, our project, our MOWG project, when this was really in the roaring 20s, oh, I can't believe I'm saying that. Then yeah, we did all kinds of really big developed jobs like this. But you know, it's been a while since most people have seen this in an actual var sheet broken out like this. But yes, it totally works. Now, here's a point I want to make. You got to be careful when you go downloading. And how did I manage to shut that page? Hold on, I'll be right back. The thing to keep in mind is this. When we upload to the batch GV, okay, and we upload that Excel file, right, whatever it was, output, whatever it was, of course we can rename this so that we can keep this in our records. Why would you bother keeping it once you put it up? Because there is no way to download it anymore once you put it up, at least not yet. So if you do go into the batch GV, okay, let me open it in a new link just to keep track. Then you see how you can import the file, right? So I would go to that file, right? That's the whole point, wherever I put that thing. Must be here, yep. And I would just double click it and import it and boom. Now, the thing to keep in mind is this. You might see this says export as Excel. If you do that, you're only gonna export the headers, okay? You will just get the header row, okay? So that way you know what the header row is, okay? So if I open it, see, it's just the header row, no data at all. But now I know what my headers are, okay? So that was made back in the day when we were just trying to get the latest version to make sure we have this correct, okay? And keep in mind, it doesn't have city, keyword, and service, right? But that's why we built the stuff into the toolbar to make it work properly so that we can build those URLs right, okay? So this is basically defunct. You're almost not going to use this at all, okay? You would just use the one from here, right? So you can get your real global variables, download them, and start manipulating them. Okay. Now, when I did upload, though, when I did upload a file, it immediately created, or it parsed through the data, so in some minutes it created all of those subdomains with all of those pages on them. And that forms my sitemap.html. Any visitor can come here. And also it created the XML sitemap. Any visitor can go there too. Okay. Now something to keep in mind is this. Okay. And it also creates a robots.txt and pings it. But here's the point I want to make. What would it take to delete the whole sitemap? Both of these, obviously. If one goes, the other should go with it, right? Well, what would it take? A change to the global variables. Because these pages are governed by the global variables, right? That's why all of this is wrapped around the whole term, global variables. So you can make changes to the pages, no problem. But if I go into the regular global variables and I change one of these codes, okay, not the default values, but if I change a global variable, if I either delete one, okay, because you can do that, or if I add a new one, or if I just simply edit and rename one, I put like a number 2 in here or something and save the change, then at that moment, my global variable list no longer matches what we uploaded, right? There is one of these is off, right? The global variables here are no longer mapped, right? Because we didn't have it in our file that we uploaded. So something's off. So the moment you either delete one, add one, or edit one, then it will delete the whole thing. All of those pages vanish. All of these pages, all of this just goes poof, it's gone, okay? So keep in mind what that means. Let's say you like what you did, but you want to add one more after all. You want to add 2 more maybe. Backlink anchor text and backlink URL, okay? And you want to stick that in there. You want to leave it blank on many of the pages, but you want to use some backlinks with the URLs on some of the pages, okay? Well, by doing that, you will have immediately deleted these, right? All this goes poof. But if I added those 2, and I knew that that's what my intention was, I could open that file, couldn't I? The one that is the way I want. And the one that I did upload, it's finished. And I could go add those exact same columns here, okay? And then just put in my anchor text, put in my URLs, whatever I want to do. I can just drag and drop, copy them, or just stick them in here every so often, you know, so that it's random, okay? So I can do that. I can go ahead and add to a file. That way I can upload it. And again, as long as the column headers in this big file match the column headers here, okay? Like we do need a city column in here, and we do need a keyword column in here, and we do need a service column in here. And the order should matter, but it may not. I don't even know anymore because we've gone through so many renditions of the tool, I have to double check. Order used to matter, but it may not matter anymore. Here's the point though. When we download it, just keep in mind, it's keeping everything in here for the column headers, right? The wording. And it's dropping these on the outside, right? So these do not show up in Excel, only the words in the middle, okay? And of course, if you want to use the brackets in the header to preserve the order going down, then you would do that manually. You would intentionally put brackets around that header, right? So that whatever it's cycling through here exactly matches, like let's say you were trying to use this as your URL and that as the anchor text, right? Now you wouldn't because it's the word service, so you'd really want to do this with some other var that's way over here, okay? But exactly, or you'd create the new var, whatever it is, right? But then you could go ahead and do that. You can make them match so that they always use the same related information. That's if you were trying to do that, right? Okay, so I think you get the point, all right? And so when you run the toolbar, it's going to create the final files, and boom, you can just upload them. Okay, that's it for the training by itself. Beyond this is just playing with it and understanding what to do. So again, just to summarize, right? In the beginning, You go into your project, you go through the pages, you incorporate variables, right, that you decided you wanted to use. So a lot of people start right here. They put the variables in that they want, and they go find good ways to stick them in through the project all over the place. And that can even come down to this. The contact us form, okay, can absolutely use the email variable for the email address. All right. So then whenever you're exporting and you're doing the big variables, okay, your batch, well, the email is here. And so you're going to upload it here with all those emails. Now, if you do that with real emails, then every one of those different URLs is going to use its own email address on the contact us form. So if you really had, 100 companies and you had their real email addresses, those contact forms would suddenly work for those guys on their pages of the production. Totally awesome, right? So that's cool. And you can control everything else. What else could you make variables? What else might you make variables? How's this? You want to use visitor tracking, and you'll have a default tracking code. It's like the house tracking code. But if somebody wants to put in their own, you could tell them send it to you. Like I like to use stack counter. So I could put in a default stack counter variable here. So every page I produce has a stack counter link. So I can literally see whether anyone's come to any of those pages, how many per page, which pages are more popular. I can chase down the keywords that they're showing up for, because when I see the clicks on them, I see which URLs were clicked. So I can trace it back, right? Somebody else might want to put Google Analytics coding in. So why not have a Google Analytics in here? Okay, and that could be your default. And then somebody else goes and says, well, here's mine. So when you do the production, make sure that their pages use theirs, all the rest use the default. Okay, if you have a bunch of rows for the same company, that's great. But if you wanted to sneak in one or two or three for a different company for some city area where the first company isn't even doing business, then do it. Unless you're working for that company and promise not to. But yeah, I mean, literally the point is you could have 99% of an uploaded file work for one company and its franchises, but 1% of that file could work for that company over there. And another one could work for that company over there. Okay, with either default values, their values, or a combination thereof. That's how fluid this is. And if you mess anything up, just delete it. Again, hit edit, put a number 2 anywhere in here, hit save, then hit edit again, take the number 2 back out and hit save. If you do that, all of these go poof. But if you still have your files, right, then you can edit your files to fix whatever the issue was. Maybe you had a column was off, and so all the information was off, and you realized that and you fixed it, right? And then re-upload it, okay? So yeah, you can fix everything and then re-upload it, right? And there you go. And so that's how that works there, and it's really just a totally amazing deal. Okay, guys, well, there you go. I think that pretty much covers the whole thing, and from here it's just thinking strategy. Really, that's it. I think you understand all the moving parts, so figure out what strategy you want. If you do have any questions, let me know. I can always put up like an extra video to cover something specific. But variables work everywhere, the global variables. You can put them in the sidebars. You can stick them in the videos list for the YouTube videos. You could have a variable ABC, like YTA would be YouTube A, YouTube B, YouTube C, YouTube D. By the way, we did make it possible for the variables to be uppercase or lowercase and have numbers. So you could have YT1, YT2, YT3. You could have city 1, city 2, city 3 if you had a reason to use them that many. Here's another cool one. When you're talking about randomizing going down, what if you want to put the weight on a particular term? So let's say you have 10 terms. You're going to go down 1,000. But you want number 1 to show up a little more often than everything else. Fine. Add number 1 a couple more times to this list. It will no longer be 10. It will be like 12 or 13, right? Where the extra 3 go along with that 1. So it gets like 4 times the weight. Okay? That way you get it a little more often in the production. So yeah, these are things you can control and deal with, and you can do it with backlinks. You can do it with visitor tracking code. You can do it with other things, whether there's a chat module built into the page. Now, once you get the whole production up and all these are up, You know what's really cool? If I come in here and I create a new page, like the top 10 things you need to know before choosing a roofer, and I put my global variables through it, just global variables for basic stuff, company, city, or whatever else, whatever's here on my global, I just use some. Then what? I just added that page to every one of these productions. So if these are affiliates, if they're paying for SEO, if they're part of a franchise, or just totally different companies, by creating one page in the base or paying someone else to do it on a regular basis, once a week, create a page on some topic and stick it in here, right? And you could even make new headers and rearrange the pages to fit into groups. Then you're doing it for literally everyone at once. So you are taking care of every single client in that one smooth motion. How's that for awesome? Okay. And that's great for those of you who have downlines and you want all those guys to go paying you, right, monthly to keep up their stuff. And you want to efficiently control results for them all by controlling results at the base of the project in such a way that anything you do to benefit one of these links probably is going to benefit any other one of these links because it's similar concepts, that, you know, similar reasons for the SEO to work on this production. Then the point of the matter is you are dealing with many of those guys all at the same time. And if it's all just you and they're just geo-targeted pages, any and everything you do to each page to improve it benefits you on many of these results at the same time. Totally awesome. Do the math. You have a guy and you pay him $200 to work for 4 hours doing the SEO on one web page, like your home page. Okay, that's great. But if you did 200 subdomains, then now when he's doing the work on your one web page and he's working around your global variables, he understands the concept of the global variables generally. And so he's not breaking them. He's being careful with them. But he's doing everything he can to make that homepage rank better in you know, dealing with the keyword density, meta description, page title, and everything. What he doesn't know is that when you paid him $200 for that one page, he's actually adjusting 200 home pages for your project, all the 200 home pages that you have up. So you're actually paying him $1 a page to make this one rank better for Wolf Trap roof repair, while this one ranks better for Old Greenwich roof repair, while this one ranks better for Belterre roof repair, while this one ranks better for North Caldwell roof replacement, and so on and so forth. Okay, very awesome, totally awesome, absolutely above board, because that is actually how things should be done if they're done efficiently, and it gives you all the control in the world. There you go. Really good ideas, good points, and great reasons for getting into this. Okay, hope that helps you understand the toolbar and, you know, what you can do with it. So from here, it's just strategy. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Take care.